Was that the Resurrection Mary boogie or what? Anyhow, if we have anybody that did cite Resurrection Mary last Sunday night, we'd like to hear from you. A couple lines open if you want to try and call, and I will ask the rest of you not to call for a couple minutes. I want to see if we can get any other people that did see Resurrection Mary last Sunday night. 561-5656. And while we're waiting, let's take another phone call. Clint, you're on WIND. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Steve, am I in contact with you?
You sure are. I hope so.
Good. Yes. Yeah, right. No, I just wanted to recite. I've had quite a few experiences with this kind of thing. You may call it ghost or spiritualism or whatever, but just my most recent, and it was very concrete. I would refer. I presume I refer this to you and to Rich. That I had pneumonia about, I'd say, approximately 5 months ago, and I was alone here. I live in a hotel apartment, to make a long story short, and I have a dear friend who has a Japanese wife who has been dead for about 20 years. And I don't want to mention her name or his name, but I was going through a tremendous amount of fits, if you've ever been through that. Chills, sweat, coughing, and I just thought of her. And this happened a couple of times in the course of my illness. And the illness, the pain stopped. You still there?
Yes, we're listening.
But that's only the first half. But at that point, I had a friend down the hall here in the hotel, and for the next three months, after she left, or after what I believe she left, I have no doubt in ghosts whatsoever. After at least she made a direct contact with me, we heard, my friend Jim and I heard and this is the one thing I can't explain and don't understand. I hope Rich might know something about it. A knock on the door, a soft knock, a very effete knock. One day it would be his door, the next day it would be mine. And it was always, and the one thing we confirmed, it was always when either of us we talked about it. He thought it was me playing around with him, and I thought it was him playing around with me and playing jokes the first 2 weeks. But after that, we confirmed it wasn't. But the one thing we did confirm was it was the same very subtle knock. 2 light knocks on the door, his and mine. It would alter, and it was always when we were in a half sleep or in a twilight. And that is the one thing...
You're sure it's not something that you were sort of semi-dreaming as you came into this half-sleep?
I don't believe that 2 people could do that, and
you're sure that your friend was not just sort of kidding you along to make you think that this was going on?
No, I'm very certain of it. I would stake my life on it.
Any comments, Richard?
The only comment I would make is that knocks are...
Why would he...
In many cases, they're a portent of death. But not always, obviously. And
thank you. I want to go to bed in about 20 minutes.
There's no hard and fast rule on psychic phenomena. 3 knocks, usually, the 3 knocks on the door, which also in masonry is the Tyler's knock. It's a very symbolic thing. But 3 knocks are usually considered the portent of death.
Pardon me?
It's a portent of death, a foretelling of death when people hear knocks. It's like clock stopping or pictures falling off the wall. It would fit into that category of signs or omens.
I hope you didn't hear 3 knocks, Clint.
But
I heard
didn't
2.
hear 3.
Just 2 knocks, two light ones. You know.
But this was at a time when you were quite ill. This was at the time when you were quite ill with the pneumonia?
No, it was after I recovered.
Uh-huh.
And I guess it would not hurt to mention her name, Yoshi. I felt I had a contact with her.
Mm-hmm.
This did not bother me. It did not frighten me.
Well, the final decision will have to be a personal one as to what it really meant, but it could well mean, as one possibility, that the spirit was keeping an eye out for you and was giving you one last final concrete sign. You've heard nothing else since then?
Not in a few weeks, no.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Then quite possible that, until you need help again, you're not going to be hearing anything, and that things will remain quiet. It's always nice to know you've got a friend on the other side who's going to stick up for you. But these things happen rarely and when needed, so it's not a frivolous thing at all.
Clem, thank you very much for your call. Let's go up to line 1. I think we have another person that saw Resurrection Mary. Mike, you're on WIND.
Oh, hi. Well, Monday was the night of the moon. I went out, me and my friend went out to the gates.
All right, now, are you talking about Sunday night, Monday morning?
Well, Monday morning.
Approximately what time?
Oh, it was around 1:15.
Uh-huh.
Monday morning. And I've been studying radio technology for about 7 years, and I brought a recorder. Now, I place the microphone under the main gate. They keep it locked now. Under the main gate, about maybe 1:41, close to 2 o'clock, sensor started picking up sounds. I plugged my phones in, and it's a very distinct sound of moaning. Now, when I heard this over the phones, I unplugged it real quick and we started running. I'm not very courageous myself. And we got picked up by the police, Justice Police, and they confiscated my tape. Now, I was wondering if somebody could go over there and try to get it from them.
Why, I'm just curious, why were you there on that particular morning, that particular time?
Well, we've been planning this for a long time now.
Because of the full moon? Is that why you wanted to be there?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Well, Farmer's Almanac. And the police confiscated my tape. Now, that tape has some very distinct sounds on it. And I was wondering if, something could be done to get my tape back.
That's an interesting story.
This is...
I wonder if should we check with the Justice Police Department and find out if they've got the tape?
That would be an interesting thing to try, sure.
Yeah, you could try, get back to me, because that tape, I'd love to listen to it again, because we got about 15, 20 minutes of it.
All right, tell you what, hold on for just a second. Don't go away, okay?
Okay.
What we'll try and do, unless you have the phone number of the Justice Police Department...
And not handy.
Okay, I'll see if I can get it from information. And, yes, ma'am. Phone number of the Justice Police Department. No, we just want information. This is not an emergency. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll see what we can come up with here.
Why would they confiscate the tape, I wonder if...
I don't know. Why did they, Mike, why did they say they confiscated the tape?
Well, I was out for curfew, first of all.
But that's no reason to confiscate an item from you. I mean, it's not...
Well, the tape was very distinct.
Did you offer to play it for them? Did you tell them what you had, or...?
No, I wouldn't tell them.
Well, then if you didn't tell them, how did they know what you had? Why did they take the tape?
Oh, well, I told them that, we were recording, and they took the tape. That's all they said. They let us go. They didn't take us to the station.
Yes, sir. This is WIND Radio. I'm Steve King. You are not on the radio yet. Could I talk to you on the air for just a couple seconds? Okay. We will put you on the air like this. And what is your name, sir?
Simmons.
Okay, Officer Simmons?
Yes.
You're on WIND Radio right now. I'm Steve King. Richard Crowe is with us. And my question is specifically, do you have any record of confiscating a cassette tape on Sunday night? What we're doing, in case you wonder what this is all about, we're doing a show talking about ghosts, and people have been talking about Resurrection Mary. One of our listeners said that he recorded something that may have been Resurrection Mary and that it was confiscated by the Justice Police Department, and I'm trying to find out if that's true.
It was Sunday night?
Sunday night, Monday morning.
Well, offhand, I'd say no. Who called me? WGN, I think, called me the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they were giving a report of Saturday night, something going on with somebody singing Resurrection Mary.
Is there any way that we could check for sure to find out if this tape was confiscated? I've got the listener on another phone line. Mike, I'll bring you up. What time in the morning was this? Mike? Are you with us, Mike? Okay, I think what happened is we called Mike's bluff, and I think Mike just split. As long as I have you on the phones with us, sir, have you had a lot of reports of sightings of Resurrection Mary this past Sunday night?
Offhand, no. I wasn't on duty that night, but I hadn't heard anything. I'm checking the cards for you. See if we had anything. I don't believe there's anything.
No cassette tapes that were confiscated. I think we may have just called the listeners' bluff.
It did sound very unusual for anything like that.
Yeah. Richard Crowe is with us. Richard, do you have any questions for the officer as long as we've got him on the phone?
A number of people in the area reported to me that certain people with various functions with justice have been talking about a rash of sightings or alleged sightings of Resurrection Mary Sunday morning, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. That there were a number of alleged incidents going over well over a 2-hour period. In fact, we have 4 people in the studio who had a sighting themselves, and a very unusual one. And I was told by someone who has close ties with the police department that the police did receive quite a few reports. Now, would you have, what kind of a record would you have on this, or?
Okay, any kind of a complaint or a report, we punch it like a time card, and it's recorded on there what the complaint is.
Officer, I hate to do this. We have to break for news. Can I call you back in about 5 minutes to ask just those of you that think that you may have sighted Resurrection Mary this past Sunday to give us a call at 561-5656, Sunday night, Monday morning. And I'm sure we're going to have a few bogus phone calls, but we do check them out, and even if we don't get to check them out on the air, Richard does a very thorough investigation, and anybody that is trying to pull something, as I think that one caller was, is only going to be wasting their time. We have had an interesting development in checking with the Justice Police Department. We have been talking with Officer Jerry Simmons, and he got in touch with the officer, John Casper, who was on duty Sunday night, Monday morning, and he has some information about some of the people that said they saw Resurrection Mary. He is on his way down to the station right now, so in a couple minutes, not down to this station, but to the Justice Police Department. So in a couple minutes, we will be talking with him. Officer Simmons, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said that Officer John Casper is on his way down to the police station now?
Yeah, he's sitting on the other phone right now.
Oh, he's on the other phone. Boy, that was quick. Officer Casper?
How you doing, sir?
Okay. You were on duty Sunday night, Monday morning, right?
That's correct.
Okay. What can you tell us? Did some people come in and report sightings of Resurrection Mary, or what happened?
Okay, the only really incident we had, I'd say it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, where a gentleman did come in to me, and he did advise me that he did see Resurrection Mary, evidently by the gates. Now, I had another officer in here at the time, and we bring this gentleman in. He did seem a little upset, okay, and we, sat him down and talked to him about it. He said he had not been drinking or anything like that. He was totally straight, and that he did see her walking along the cemetery. Now, at the same time, we had a Greek festival going on about a block away from the station at a Greek church. It's located about a block away from our station. And we've been having a lot of problems sometimes where we'll get girls that will try and dress up like her, to imitate her. We'll have so many people coming in, saying that they, seen her. So what I did was I turned him over to another officer, and we sat the gentleman down, like I said, and he just advised them that it could possibly have been somebody imitating her from that festival due to the fact it was still going on. Now, as far as that went, the gentleman then did leave, still a little shook up, toward the fact he thought that really was her. The officer went back out on the street and went down Archer Avenue, and then came in a few minutes later and advised me that somebody else came up to him and advised him they did, spot her or whatever, but that's as far as that had gone. But the funny thing about it was this gentleman was dressed in a black tuxedo. Now, when the officer went back out on the street and came in a few minutes later and told me that someone else had reported it. That gentleman also was dressed in a black tuxedo, identical to the first one that came in.
But you're sure it was not the same person just coming back?
No, because the officer that talked to the first gentleman, remembered what he was dressed like, and then when he went out on the street for about 10-15 minutes, he came back and he said, somebody else just reported seeing her a few minutes ago, and he also was dressed in a black tuxedo. So, like I say, there is something a little bit weird about it, but that's really about as far as it went for the night,
Well, as you know,
there was a festival, like I say, going on, and we do have some problems where we'll get girls that will try and imitate her by walking up and down Archer, and then we'll get numerous people calling us and coming in. So as far as that went, that's probably what we thought, because there was several people at that festival that night, and it didn't really end till about 1:30 in the morning.
The festival was located to the south of the main gates.
Right. It was about 7700 south, about a good block and a half away from our police department.
Now, I'm also wondering, the one individual that was in there in the tuxedo, at least the one who was in the police station, the Valley Times has conducted an interview with one gentleman who claimed that he saw Resurrection Mary on that particular morning. Independent of that, I just found out about that this afternoon in contacting the Valley Times. But there are 4 individuals who are here in the studio, in fact, with us, who had also seen a girl. But this girl was walking down Archer from the Roberts Road Street intersection of Roberts and Archer in the vicinity of the Sexton's house. So there does seem to be, and we have another call. We had at least one other call that tonight of an individual who claimed that a friend of his had seen someone also. So it would seem that Greek festival. How long has it been going on? That's been going on.
It was just for last weekend. It went I think Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. But between the 3 nights, there were several people out there. It was the church area there was completely packed with people.
No, I drove by. I remember seeing that myself.
Right.
But
Officer Casper, can you stick with us for just a couple seconds?
Sure.
Because we have another listener on another line that says that he saw Resurrection Mary. Frank, you're on WIND. Did you also see something Sunday night, Monday morning?
Steve?
Yes, you're on the air.
I don't know what I seen, to be very truthful about it. It was around between 1 and 1:30. My wife and I were in the car, because we live here in Justice. And my place of business is located in Chicago. And we were driving south on Archer, coming toward the home. And on the right-hand side of the road, which is opposite of the cemetery, and I must have been doing, 35, 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, make sure you were doing under the speed limit. The police are on the other line.
Well, as I explained myself here. And I seen something on my right-hand side. And what I actually seen was a person. And I saw the person was wearing a gown, sort of whitish, grayish. And what really struck me about it, because you see people walking down the road all the time, even 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was sober because I own a pizzeria in Chicago, and I was working. And the person had her head sort of downward. I could not see the face. And to be honest with you, I don't even know the color of the hair. But I would say it was not black. But what really struck me about it is the fact that this person, or this female, was walking very, very slowly. And I looked at my wife and I says, "What the hell is that?" And she didn't say nothing at first. And she says, "Well, that's Resurrection Mary." And I know I've heard of this person, but never really paid much attention to it, because I'm not a superstitious person. And I said, "Well, I'm going to turn around and go check this out." She says, "Oh, no, you're not." So we continue to drive. I said, "Well, I'm going to stop at the police station." She says, "No." She says, "Let's go home." I says, "Fine, let's go home." During the week, we were discussing it with family members and friends who come into place of business. And a couple girls came in this evening, had a couple sandwiches, and we discussed it with them. And then they left. And then she called the place of business and says, "Frank, there's a talk show on WIND," which I listen to, by the way, Dave Baum and Schwartz and so forth. She says they're talking about Resurrection Mary. And this was about, around 12 o'clock. We're getting ready to close. So my wife said, "Well, call the station and tell them what you seen." And that's what I seen. I don't know what it was I seen. The first thing I told my wife, it's a girl playing a prank, and so forth and so forth. And I don't really know, to be truthful about it.
Frank, can you tell us approximately where the girl was walking, relationship to the gates of the cemetery?
Well, it was opposite of the cemetery.
Right.
And it was between the Bedford Fire Department and the Justice Police Department. And if I remember correctly, because there was no bushes, there's some bushes in the area there, which gave us a pretty good view. It was gravel. It's where that place where they sell the monuments.
Which would be across from the main gates.
Yeah, it was across because we were going toward the house and she was on our right-hand side.
The people that we have in the studio here with us just started nodding their heads up and down in a very scared fashion. This is where you all saw the...
Yes. And she was walking with her hands to her side.
Yep.
Very slowly, with her head looking like if she was watching her step as she was walking.
My wife is on the extension here. She said that she noticed that where her hands were in front of her, but her head was down. Well,
could you see a face?
Could you see a face, Frank?
Pardon?
Could you see a face at all?
I definitely did not see a face. Because, again, her head seemed to be bowed downward. Her hands were in front of her. But the thing that struck me was this white, grayish, long gown, but she was walking so slowly. Now, 1 o'clock in the morning, people usually are walking relatively fast or at a normal pace. She was not. She was if I can best describe it, it's like a girl walking down the aisle getting married. That slow approach, like half steps.
And again, we get a nod from our guests here in the...
That's a very good description.
Okay, Frank, can you hold on with us for just a couple seconds?
Sure.
All right. Again, to Officers Simmons and Casper, I don't want to tie up the entire Justice Police Department. Are the two of you still with us?
Yes, sir, Officer Casper.
Okay. Let me ask you, Officer Casper, from your experiences with the police department out in Justice, do you believe in Resurrection Mary?
Well, like I said before, sir, as far as we've have several reports of, her being spotted. Especially getting around the time of Halloween and stuff. Not in particularly because this is my first year I've been here, okay? And with this gentleman that came in last week was really the first time I've ever had anybody come in to advise me that they, thought they saw her or they think they saw her, It's
and
really the first time it's
I suppose it's entirely probable that after this show tonight, you probably get a certain amount of crank calls with people saying that they have seen Resurrection Mary.
Yeah, that most likely will happen, but,
Richard, do you have any further questions for the officer?
Not really, except that I'm sure there are some people tonight who are not able to call, and I'm going to be pursuing this and checking with these individuals. And just from the descriptions so far and the type of gown, the type of dress, Frank, if you're still there, I wonder if you can describe that dress. It would, from the descriptions given by the four people in the studio tonight, it's not the kind of thing that you'd wear to a modern Greek party at all, but a more old-fashioned type get-up. And just from information in general, I would have to say that I don't think it was somebody from that Greek festival.
If I were to describe it best I can, again, my wife is on the extension here, but it was long, all the way down to the, a gown. It was more grayish than white. But you can't. I was driving. It's hard to pick up a complete description. But I would, first of all, say that it seemed old, and the girl was sort of tall and slim, and
whoops, we had our first discrepancy here. Our guests here in the studio nodded when you said she was tall, and they shook their heads no when you said she was slim. She was, to the people here in the studio, she was not slim?
No, she was heavy, large boned, very large across the back and shoulders.
Well, again, to try to describe it entirely as far as her appearance, like I say, I'm doing about 35 miles an hour, and it was only for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm. Well under the speed limit, we might emphasize.
I must have been doing about 35, 38, 40 in that area.
It keeps edging up. You're going to get yourself arrested, Frank.
I'm in a good zone there.
Okay.
That's the best I can describe her. Maybe my wife might have another opinion. She was sitting right next to me, and she's on the extension there. But the impression I got, it was a young girl, okay?
Okay, to your wife, ma'am, would you agree with what Frank has said, or would you care to add anything?
Well, the gown she was wearing wasn't a modern type gown. It was white. It wasn't a bright white. And it looked like her hands were clasped down in front of her, and her head was bowed. She looked like she was maybe about 5'5". And it looked like she had a stole type thing around her shoulders that she had grasped in front of her. Her head was down, and I couldn't tell the color of her hair. I don't know if she was wearing the stole like over her head to cover her hair. And she didn't look like she was too heavy. Like I said, she might have had something around her shoulders that you couldn't really tell if she was slim or heavy or what. But when I saw her, I got scared, and I said to myself, oh my God, it must be Resurrection Mary. And I didn't say a word to my husband. And then he says, what the hell was that? He said, did you see that? I said, yeah. I said, just keep going.
How about other traffic on the on Long Archer at that same time?
There wasn't too much. In fact, there weren't any cars in front of us, but there was one behind us.
Did you notice them trying to stop or slow down or anything else? Or
No. And about the Greek festival, that was already over with, and the lights were half closed. There might have been maybe 1 or 2 lights around there and a couple of people there that were, cleaning up. But it was closed. There wasn't any other people there but maybe these 2.
Frank, can I ask you to hold on? I'd like to talk to you further about this, if that's possible.
Sure.
Give you a call tomorrow. If you hold on, we'll get your number. I'd like to talk to you about it. This is, I appreciate your call very much on this.
Hold on for a second, Frank. Dave Stanczyk, our producer, will be right back with you. And Officer Casper, if it is all right with you, I will. I have your number here, and I will give it to Richard Crowe, and he will get in touch with you and maybe ask you a few further questions.
I'd be glad to share my information with you, officer.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, officer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Problem.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Well, what do you think, Richard? We're doing a little on-the-air investigation
WIND
here.
really gets the insomniacs out and the people who are out on the roads at those hours. This is amazing that so many people, as I mentioned before, that we were able to contact so many people for one thing, and this appears, if it is indeed Resurrection Mary, and I think that just from the impression that this sighting made on all these people, obviously if it was just an ordinary person wandering around, these people wouldn't even remember the next morning. But it did make a great impression upon people, and they're still talking about it, and still something that they're keeping up on. So this seems to be the tip of a much larger iceberg, and we will keep with this.
And we have a few more calls that are coming in. We're going to break for a second, and then we'll get right back. Again, I would like to ask those of you that have seen Resurrection Mary or feel that you've seen her over the past week, go ahead and give us a call. 561-5656 at WIND. They bring them in a studio for a little while, and they start correcting the host. I have just been corrected by some of our guests here in the studio who told me I keep saying Sunday night, Monday morning. It was not Sunday night, Monday morning. It was Saturday night, Sunday morning. Thank you for correcting me. Now get out. So if anyone saw Resurrection Mary Saturday night, Sunday morning, go ahead and give us a call. 561-5656 on WIND, our phone number. Let's go up to line 2. And John, you're on WIND. Go right ahead.
Good morning. Talking to, or I should say listening to Richard and you, Steve, brings me to one of Richard's favorite haunts out in the southern suburbs. Richard, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, probably Bachelor's Grove.
Correct, right. And back in right now I'm sure that they have a fence around it, I'm pretty sure now, and it's all kind of watched by the county police and everything. But back in 1972 in the fall, 4 of us during the day, at that particular time it was known as, I guess, Lover's Lane, or people used to go out and play kissy-kissy. It was a make-out point, I guess, for kids. And so 4 of us one time during the day went out there, and we had heard about Bachelor's Grove and everything, and at that particular time it was a big thing. And we had never really been out there, so we went out there during the day, and just experienced the headstones and everything, and like I said, but that particular time nobody chased us away and everything. And but there was an old, if I remember right, Richard, it was an old mausoleum or something. And if I remember the story about it, isn't there a light that appears there at certain times off and on or something, or I don't know.
Well, when I first started hearing about Bachelor's Grove was about 1964, 1965, when I was in high school on the south side of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And at that particular point of time, down in Joliet, he was teaching in Joliet, he's teaching, I believe, in Bensenville now. He had experienced the light, had seen the light on a couple of occasions, and I've interviewed other people who had seen this light.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, that particular light, at least to my knowledge, I don't have any recent sightings of that light out there now. I'm not sure why. Maybe that particular kind of phenomena is right. The particular kind of phenomena is dormant due to high energy costs or something. But that light was reported very frequently back in the latter 1960s and early 1970s.
I'd like to not deter you away from Resurrection Mary, the Hitchhiking Ghost. I believe it was this week. You were talking about That's Incredible. I think they had on the house in California, and I know you probably know what I'm talking about. The Winchester House.
Winchester House, right?
Right. They just had that on not too long ago, I think. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah. And John Davidson took a little tour, I guess, with people inside. I don't know if you happen to catch that or not. And he did a little experiment. He went and hid inside the house, okay? He was walking with people, and he told them that he was going to hide. And he had told about the house previous about 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, he lives down in Joliet. He was teaching in Joliet. He's teaching, I believe, in Bensenville now. He had experienced the light, had seen the light on a couple of occasions, and I've interviewed other people who had seen this light.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, that particular light, at least to my knowledge, I don't have any recent sightings of that light out there now. I'm not sure why. Maybe that particular kind of phenomena is right. The particular kind of phenomena is dormant due to high energy costs or something. But that light was reported very frequently back in the latter 1960s and early 1970s.
I'd like to not deter you away from Resurrection Mary, the Hitchhiking Ghost. I believe it was this week. You were talking about That's Incredible. I think they had on the house in California, and I know you probably know what I'm talking about. The Winchester House.
Winchester House, right?
Right. They just had that on not too long ago, I think. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah. And John Davidson took a little tour, I guess, with people inside. I don't know if you happen to catch that or not. And he did a little experiment. He went and hid inside the house, okay? He was walking with people, and he told them that he was going to hide. And he had told about the house previous about 3 or 4 minutes. He gave a description of how many windows it had and everything. That he was going to hide, and he was going to give these couples, there was like 5 couples, $100 to the first couple that could find him. And it took a matter of maybe, 10 minutes, I guess. But this one couple did finally find him in the house. And they did explain, like I said previous to that, about the Winchester House and how eerie it was and everything. And that was just, it was weird. I had never seen that before. And I know that you had talked to Eddie about that quite, just I guess quite a few times on the show about it.
Yes, the Winchester House is a very famous house in California.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, not so much from the ghosts that are supposed to be there, but the fact that it was built under the direction of ghosts or spirits. This was supposedly done because of spirit messages given to the heir of the Winchester fortune that she should build this to placate the dead killed by the Winchester repeating rifle.
What an incredible story. Thank you very much for your call, John. We're going to have to break for news. And it's after 2, it's WIND. I'm Steve King. Our special guest for the morning is Richard Crowe, and we'll get back with more conversation with Richard. Actually, as soon as he walks back in the studio. And we'll just, both banks of phones are going absolutely bananas. So if you have any questions or comments for Richard about spooky things that you have experienced, feel free to give us a buzz. Area code 312-591-5656 and 5656. Richard, is Chicago an unusually good area for ghost sightings? I mean, you don't hear this kind of thing all that much from areas like I don't know, Indianapolis, San Francisco, whatever. Chicago, just to me, maybe it's because we live here, maybe there are a whole lot of ghost sightings in other areas, but is this a really good area for ghost sightings?
It's a good area for sightings, first of all, but it's, I think, the thing that hits most people, first of all, when they start looking at the ghosts around Chicago, is the fact that because of our somewhat unique history, and particularly the waves of various ethnic groups that came here, we have so many different cultures that came together in this area, that each one of these cultures, each ethnic group, each group of people who came here, has their own way of looking at things, obviously, not only materialistically, but also psychically, and have their own way of producing psychic phenomena or ghosts. So we have very distinctive American Indian ghosts, Polish ghosts, Italian ghosts, Irish ghosts, Mexican ghosts, what have you. We have a little bit of everything here. It's sort of a smorgasbord of the world's folklore and legend and ghosts, all right here in the general Chicago area.
You were giving me a suggestion for a possible place to do a Halloween show from, a place that is closed down because it's haunted?
There was a old haunted bar. We'll keep the name of that quiet at the moment, but it does belong to a friend of mine, and she has had this closed now for, it must be a good 12 years or so. And there were a number of different hauntings in there. It's somewhat of a famous place to some people, and I will definitely put you in touch with this psychic who owns it, and I think it would be a great place for you to do it from if you...
I would love to.
If you could take it, if you could do it on
I don't know if I like the way he said that. Why has it been closed for 12 years? She can't sell it? It's people are afraid to buy it because it's haunted?
Well, there were a number of strange circumstances happening to people who tried to buy it. And...
Now, wait a minute. And you're trying to convince me that I should do a midnight...
Well, you're only doing a one-night stand, Steve. You're not going to try to take over the place and run it.
No, I'm not. I'm not at all. Let's take a few phone calls and see what's on anybody's mind. Let's go down to line 7. Terry, you're on WIND with Richard Crowe. Go right ahead.
Yes, Richard. My name's Terry Riley. I believe a while back in your high school days you used to hang around with my sister Jill Riley.
Yes.
And she, I believe, turned you on to this Mary Alice Quinn.
Jill Riley was a friend of my sister Barbara, and it's through Jill that I first heard about Mary Alice Quinn. That's correct.
Correct. I am her brother.
And you are
I'm Terry
first
Riley.
cousins, I believe, of... are you first cousins of Mary Alice or second cousins of Mary Alice?
I believe it's third cousin.
The third cousins.
Right, and she was canonized as saint between, I believe, 67 and 69.
No, she's never been canonized, unfortunately, although there are many people who think that she deserves that particular kind of recognition.
Is that right? I thought the understanding was that she was canonized.
Never officially canonized, no. We have a shortage of female American saints. We have Mother Cabrini, who has a Chicago connection, but who died elsewhere, died in Denver, I believe. And we have Catherine Tekowicka, who was recently canonized, and Mother Seton. So there's only 3 American women saints. And Mary Alice Quinn, unfortunately, if she would have the backing of a religious order or something, may well reach canonization one of these days. But,
is that right?
I would say that it's the kind of person, just from the amount of reported miraculous happenings, I'm sure that if proper investigations were conducted, that in the eyes of the church, there probably would be the 3 necessary miracles performed. Because as you well know, I'm sure, with the story of Mary Alice, there are some remarkable cures that have been reported over the years, cancer cures and other things reported from people.
That's what I've been told. I haven't followed it up, but there's members of the family that have. Like I heard earlier that she's from the Riley side, and that's what made me have to call it. I've been trying for so long.
All right, Terry. Thank you very much for checking in with us. 14 minutes after 2 at WIND, down to up to line 4. You want me to do 4? Okay. 5. All right. Dave Stansick's going crazy in the other studio. He's spooked tonight, boy, I tell you. I'll be surprised if he makes it through this show. Linda, you're on WIND.
All right, thank you. Hello, Richard?
Yes?
Richard, my name is Linda, and I've been trying to reach you since 12 o'clock or even sooner tonight. All right, my story is maybe a little bizarre, but it has nothing to do with Resurrection Mary. I guess it was about maybe 1971 or 72. And my sister bought a house on Westbury. It was on the north side. And she had peculiar things happening, and at first we thought it was just, like a lot of goofy things, maybe, things that happened. But it got a little more serious than that. The first floor was particularly fine. She bought this house. But on the second floor, it turned out where water would run downstairs, it wouldn't run upstairs. The phone would ring downstairs, it wouldn't ring upstairs. It came to the point where things were happening, where things were thrown to her, like doors and windows upstairs. And my sister called the police. They came out, and this was all verified by the police department. And, at first she thought it was just, could have been the kids or something. But then it became more serious than that. It became more like couches she had no couch. It was thrown through the walls. She come in to do work, and there were hatchet marks.
A couch was thrown through the walls?
A couch, yes, Richard, a couch.
I'm sorry, thrown through the wall, you mean it was up against the wall, or?
It was by the wall, Richard, and it was actually thrown through the wall. And in this particular room's upstairs, it was like a circular building upstairs. There was a kitchen in the building, in the middle, and then around were bedrooms, like in a circular. And there was one room that was never finished. And then there was like a, what you call it could have been an attic, not an attic, but a little room that was built in this room, and it went up high, and there was a little box. And in this little box, in this room was a little box. And in there, my sister didn't know what it was, And my sister, she did study astrology and all this stuff, and she thought, well, maybe it's just something peculiar. But then her phone would ring downstairs and wouldn't ring upstairs. The water would run downstairs, but it wouldn't come upstairs. And this was in the period of 1972. And she had the police out there a couple of times, And many times when you were on the air with Ed Schwartz, I wanted to call you and tell you about this house because it was really strange. I went over there with my baby one time, and you'd go up the front stairs, leading up to that hallway, leading up to the stairs, and even her cat would go so far, and he'd just come down. He wouldn't go any further. And like I said, she had the police up there. It was like a peculiar thing that happened.
Now, you say was. Are these things still going on?
No, finally, after what happened, Richard, she got rid of the things that was going on there.
Could you tell me more about that box, though? I mean, do you think there was some connection with that box? And
oh, yes.
What was in that box?
Yes, it had this goes into a period of time. This is what I'm saying. When I got on the air the first time, it was hard to explain this.
Well, what was in the box?
Well, when my sister went, she had some friends. They belonged to the occult. And they told her that in this box was a peculiar thing that something that happened there many, many years ago.
You mean she'd never opened the box?
No, because she couldn't get to it. See, it was like a wall built. And at the top, there was an opening. And if you looked down, you saw this box.
Oh, okay.
And then, this is what was going, but she didn't know what was happening. I mean, the box at that time had nothing to do with it. Understand, Richard?
Uh-huh.
All right. So, she had the police out there, and she'd come in from work, and she saw axe marks against her walls. She'd find peculiar things. Her water would be, draining over. And attempts, like choking on her life and my niece's life at that time. She'd be in the bedroom, and they'd feel someone coming up through the back stairs, usually about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And they'd feel a presence of someone in the upstairs, never the downstairs, always the upstairs. And they could actually feel the presence of people up there. And this went on for 2 years. And in fact, my sister, there was someone who was publishing a book at that time after this was like over with that wanted to even write a book about this. And
all right, how did it finally end? Did she sell the house or what?
Well, here's how it ended, Richard. Finally, she went to her friends, which is man Roger. He was in the occult. And like I said, I know it's weird and bizarre. That's why I said it's hard for other people to believe this.
Okay.
And they had a seance, or whatever you call it. And they told her that the people that lived previously in there, it could have been in the early, like, 1800s or early 1900s, that lived in there, and something had happened. That they saw, like, a mother and her son that lived there. And that maybe he was, like, involved with a girl, and in that box, they saw bones, like, of a child, where he had got involved with, like, a woman or something, and the child's bones were in this here box.
Okay.
And my sister, you know, it was so, you know, like I say, most people say this is stupid. But I went to her house with my baby, who was about 14 months old, and we were going to go upstairs and stay in her bedroom. And when I walked up the stairs, and you walked up the stairs, it was like, you go up there, it was like, maybe like a cold thing, like, say, like almost death walked over you, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very peculiar feeling.
So what happened after the seance? Did the seance solve the problem, or what?
No, at first, they told her that they saw this here presence of this woman and a young man. And they told her it happened like maybe 1890s or in the early 1900s, the way she was dressed. And she was out in the yard looking up at this. And my sister, you know, she knew what was going on all this time. I mean, all the things that were happening to her between my niece and my nephew and all the people that lived there. So then, what happened, actually, at the end, is that when she had, like, the last seance, they told her they were going to remove the box from this here entrance in this here closet.
Uh-huh.
And actually, whether you believe it or not, Richard, the box was gone. When they went up and went on a ladder and looked down that little opening to that entrance, the box was actually gone.
And was that the end of the problems at the house?
And because she couldn't sell the house, but she knew they had a problem, she's going to, you know, she's trying to sell the house. After this here box was removed, they actually sold the house. Like maybe a month or two after that, my sister actually sold the house.
And did the people that moved into the house, did they report any problem, or did that...
No, she does not know that. Right now, my sister is in Pueblo, Colorado. But I know about it. My father is alive, and he knows about it.
So, I mean, do you know of any further thing that happened after they sold the house? Are you aware of it?
No, I do not.
Mm-hmm.
I do not. I can honestly say I do not. But this was a spectacular thing that happened at this time. I mean, this was an actual... which is, I mean, I didn't go through the whole details with you on the telephone because I can't, everything that happened. It was horrifying because I experienced, you know, things, you know, with her that happened.
Okay, did you take notes, or do you have the information written down? If you could send me a letter regarding that, I would like to see that.
And Richard's address is Post Office Box
29054, Chicago 60629. In fact, we've got a lot of calls. The lines are all lit up now. If there are people out there who can't get through tonight, by all means, drop me a line. I would certainly like to hear from you. And, of course, that goes for people who want to contact me regarding my tours also, because we've had quite a few calls tonight with the Resurrection Mary thing also. But if you could send me a letter and just relate the information and what you couldn't get into on the phone now, I'd love to have that.
Okay, Linda, thank you very much for your call. Let's go down to line 8. Joe, you're on WIND with Richard Crowe.
Yes, Richard?
Yes.
Yes, I have two questions to ask. Number one, there was an incident at St. Rita High School a while back, maybe a year and a half ago. I'd like to know if you heard anything about that, about some kind of spirits or ghosts locking people in the church.
Well, actually, the St. Rita's incident is, that most people refer to occurred in 1960 at St. Rita's Church, not the high school, but at the church at 63rd and Fairfield. And this is another early story that I heard about when I was young and made a great impression on me. It was one of the reasons, or one of the things that got me involved in looking into things, looking into this sort of happening. But I also received a letter this week from people who heard I was going to be on the radio tonight. In fact, they asked me to mention the incident at St. Peter's downtown. I think they were referring to this one. St. Rita's, not St. Peter's. And it was at St. Rita's Church at 63rd and Fairfield, not the high school, but on All Souls Day. And this, I'll briefly cut this out. We're going to break for news. How
at 2:30.
Oh, okay. We have a couple minutes here. But on All Souls Day of 1960, which is a traditional day when the dead walk and take care of unfinished business, on that particular All Souls Day, November the 2nd of 1960, there were a number of people in church praying for indulgences for the dead. It's a standard Catholic practice. It's something you do on your own. You don't need a priest to assist you. And there were a dozen and a half or so people in that church in the afternoon. And I have talked to people. We've had phone calls from people here at various times at WIND who were in church that day also. We may get some calls tonight for that matter. But these people were in church. Suddenly the organ in the organ loft was giving off wild screeches. When the people turned around to face the organ loft to see what was causing this, they were startled to see that there was no one at the bench of the organ. The organ was screeching away by itself. But on either side of the organ were three hooded figures. Three figures in white monk-like robes and three figures in black monk-like robes. The figures were facing towards the congregation, but there were no faces discernible, and it was just the hoods up and the faces hidden in the shadows, if there were faces indeed. And the people were so shook by this that they ran for the side doors of the church to get out. I think, as we've heard earlier tonight, psychic experiences really caused people to somewhat panic. People tried to get out of the side doors of the church. The doors would not budge. They were being held shut as if by some invisible force. The doors could not be forced open. And as they struggled to get out of the church, the figures that were in the organ loft were now on the ground floor of the church, gliding through the pews, apparently gliding through the pews with no effect. And a voice was heard to whisper loudly through the church, "Pray for me." At that moment, the doors flew open by themselves. Everyone ran out. And later on, they were rounded up by the then pastor, Father McHale, and asked not to discuss this, to keep it to themselves. But of course, an incident of this sort is one that is hard to keep quiet. I remember hearing about it. I was at visitation grade school at the time, and I'll never forget hearing about this particular story. It was 1960, the year the Fatima secret was to be revealed, and the good sisters had us all on edge, worried about the end of the world and other things to scare grammar school children with. And I'll never forget the incident, hearing about it at that point, and it was within a few years of that time that I started to meet people from the area who said, well, so-and-so was there at the time. I was eventually able to meet a number of people. A good friend of mine who went to DePaul University, who was a Chicago policeman, who's now an attorney here in Chicago. He was in the church that day, and other people as well. So it's a very, very famous folk tale on the South Side, one that's more than a mere folk tale, because there are people still around the area who had experienced it firsthand. But that happened in 1960. They'll have the 20th anniversary of that incident, November the 2nd this year.
Really? November the 2nd of this year, right? November
the 2nd, maybe if history repeats itself. But usually an incident like this is a real once-in-a-lifetime happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure that whoever, the message of pray for me, whoever had delivered that message in 1960 has long since had his prayers said, because there have been no reported repeats of this.
That's amazing. I got chills as you were telling that story. You say you have had the chance to talk with some of the people that were there.
Yes, there still are many people on the southwest side of Chicago who were there, experienced that, either themselves personally or close friends and close relatives who were there.
Okay.
Could I ask you one more question?
Real quick, we got about 50 seconds before ABC jumps in on us.
All right. Could you tell me about the haunted house, and what was that thing about the reward and looking for people to stay there?
Well, very briefly, if anybody can get to the bottom of this, I'd like to hear about it myself, but there's been a tale circulating for some time that there is a haunted house somewhere in the Midwest area that if you are able to spend the night there without being chased off, you will be given this reward. But I, unfortunately, have never been able to substantiate that or find out where this house is.
If anybody knows where the house is, let us know, and maybe we'll try a broadcast from there. Oh, what am I getting myself into? ABC News is what I'm getting myself into, and we'll be right back after that. It's a hazy night, and I would be willing to bet that there are people that are out there in the suburbs where it's kind of hazy that are listening to us that are getting scared to death. It's just one of those nights. Let's take some more phone calls. Up to line 10. Kathy, you're on WIND with Richard Crowe. Go right ahead.
Hi, I just want to tell you, I find Mr. Crowe fascinating. Every time he's on, I have to listen to him, and I'm fascinated in this stuff. But I also follow religious phenomenon. So I wanted to ask Mr. Crowe if he has heard about this one story that I have heard. And from what I understand, it just might be a rumor that WLS is investigating this, where it started out with two women driving through the desert out in California. And they picked up a young man hitchhiking. And all the young man could say is that Jesus is coming soon. Jesus is coming soon. And they thought this guy was crazy. That's all he could say. And they turned around to say something to him, and he was gone. And from what I understand in the stories I've heard, and they had somebody on the PTL Club, a religious talk show, other people who have seen this man, and that's all he will say, and they will turn around, and he will only come into cars. People will pick him up hitchhiking, and that's all he'll say, and they will turn around, and he will be gone.
Any comments on that, Richard?
This particular, this is sort of a modern 1970s, 1980s version of the hitchhiking ghost, but in this case it's the so-called hitchhiking Jesus, or the hitchhiking prophet.
Mm-hmm.
He's been reported now since, I believe, the early 1970s. Now, Lydia Fish, who's a folklorist in New York State, in Buffalo, New York, had done a great deal of study. The story apparently got started, the tales first began on the New York tollways, turnpikes, and soon spread all over. Now, within, I believe it was just about 3 weeks to a month ago, there was a wire story from Little Rock, Arkansas, that this fellow was seen outside Little Rock. That there were some mentions of this. There was nothing first person mentioned. It was just mentioned in the a very brief news release that there were reports of this individual outside Little Rock, and it's apparently now a nationwide phenomena occurring all over the area. Now, there's a possible local tie-in in the character seen at Palatine and Ela Road, Northwest. And in this case, there is a individual described as a Jesus-type looking character with longish hair and a beard, who was seen in very faded Levi's or white Levi's, who is seen apparently looking for a road. There's a little cemetery there near that intersection. He's seen looking for a ride on the side of the road, and I have talked to people who stopped to try to pick him up, and then he's not there. But I have not found anyone who's had him in the car say anything and disappear in the back seat. But this is a common part of these tales from other parts of the country. Maybe he's waiting for the right person to pick him up or whatever. Maybe it has happened and I just haven't heard about it yet. But there's a possibility that this Palatine and Ela, the specter seen at that intersection, which apparently a specter seen at that intersection, may well be the same. I don't know if there's one or many around the country, but this is an ongoing thing, and it's. I had no idea that the religious television programs were picking up on this. Now, in Mormon folklore, there are 3 prophets who are seen in this fashion. Have been seen since the days of wagon trains and so on. So it goes predating the automobile in the case of in the western states with the Mormons. But this is a very, very popular tale at the moment with automobiles and various tollways.
One more question. There is a cemetery on Archer, but it's where the dance hall is, where they say that Mary was supposed to.
The Willowbrook Ballroom, right?
And I think the cemetery is called Rosemont Hill.
It's now that you ask me,
do you know which one I'm talking about?
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Right, it's south of the ballroom. Right.
Right. It goes up on a hill. It's a very strange cemetery, but anyway, they always, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, have those gates open. And even when we were younger, which was stupid, we used to go through there at night because...
I'm sorry, Rose Hill, I believe, is the name of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. And you get on this one road, and it's a one-way road, and it takes you up on this, it's a winding road, and you find yourself up on a hill. But this cemetery is very strange because you have to go up on a hill, but the cemetery will take you all the way back to, I think it is 87th Avenue. But they can't, and now the gates on 87th are always closed, but the gates on Archer are constantly open, and there's, I guess there's different things happening in there, but we can never, ever, we even got stopped by the police in there once, you know, who, he didn't like us being in there, which was dumb. We were younger, though, and he would not even give us an answer. Those gates are constantly open.
Well, there's a possibility that at one time or another in the past that this was someone left an endowment to the cemetery and asked to have the gates open. There are interesting cemetery customs. Another place where the gates are always open, except on from Friday night, sundown Friday night until sundown Saturday night, is Jewish Waldheim Cemetery. And, of course, that's a conservative Jewish cemetery, so it's closed on the Sabbath. But all other hours, the gates are open. So there's interesting cemetery etiquette, folklore, and reasons for this. I have noticed that those gates are always open facing Archer. I should look. I'll look into that. I'll check on that and see what I can come up with.
Okay.
Kathy, thank you very much for your call. Let's go up to line 6. Steve, you're on WIND with Richard Crowe.
Hello, Steve. I'm a long-time listener and a first-time caller.
Well, thank you for that. What can we do for you?
I'd like to talk to Richard.
Go ahead.
Okay, Richard.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I live in the southwest suburbs, about 5 blocks from a cemetery. And one morning, now I don't drink, so I wasn't drunk. One morning, I'm backing up my drive, which is about 150 feet from the street, to the garage. I've got the garage doors open, and I'm looking backwards, of course, as I'm driving. So I'm about halfway up, and I turn to the front, and I see a woman walking up the drive towards me. Now, I didn't see any cars or anything out in the street there. So I proceeded to get back up to the garage as far as I could, and I put my highlights on, and I figured, well, I'll stay behind the lights. This way it's kind of blinding her. Well, she walked up to the car, and she asked about some neighbors, a house that she was looking for, that she supposedly was lost.